Hello, Nancy has joined, and unfortunately, I can only join by audio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Oh yeah, and to you. We got quite a New Year's start here. Good grief. Hello, Betsy.
Morning.
Hello, can anyone hear me? It's Nancy.
Yep, we're good, Nancy.
Yes, we can hear you, Nancy.
Okay, great. Great. Just wanted to make sure. It's hard when you're not seeing everyone. Good to know.
It's okay. Are you in Lewis or are you away?
We are getting our travel trailer brakes fixed, and so we camped overnight in a parking lot.
Well, that's an interesting experience.
It's actually it's a parking lot next to a pond and a lot of geese, so it wasn't bad.
Okay. Okay. You had a different type of alarm clock this morning called geese.
That's right.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Fine. How are you, Mr. Mayor?
I'm good, thank you. Hoping we're to see more sunshine today.
That would be good.
You working on that?
I'm in customer service. The weather's a miraculous department. Above my pay grade.
Okay. Well, sun's been pretty retrograde lately. I don't know. Okay, we still have Derica and Matt to join us.
I just sent text to he says he's at the link.
Okay, I know Derica and I spoke about it. I think I'm quite certain she's planning on joining. Matt joined us. That's great. Good. Morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Okay, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Wait one, okay. Well, it is 8:31, and the only person who seems to be missing is Derica, and hopefully she'll join us soon. So I think we could go ahead and get started. So it is Friday, January the 8th at 8:31, and we're here for a meeting of the Downtown Business District Parking Committee. And the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Janine did send those out yesterday. I hope everyone received a copy and had a chance to look them over. Are there any comments, questions, additions, corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thanks, Betsy. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you,
Carol.
Carolyn. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the minutes have been approved. Then moving on to item C1 is discussion of and recommendations to mayor and council regarding the approval of the lease and improvements to the M&T parking lot. I had hoped that I would have the lease in hand that M&T is modifying. It's basically the same lease that we had worked on last year, modified with the updating of it and also the revisions to the plan that Charlie had shared with us last month. I have spoken with Patty Dorr and Amy Fraser, both of whom are the M&T representatives working on this. And I spoke to them just prior to Christmas, and they indicated they had no problem with it. They have all this information, and the lease would be forthcoming. However, I have not received it as of this morning. Charlie, can we pull those plans back up just to make sure everybody recalls what they look like? Anne Marie, can you do that for Charlie?
So I've just allowed so that
Charlie
Charlie
to do
can
it?
share.
Okay, great. Thank you.
See that?
Yep. Great, Charlie. Thank you.
Yep. So it's just real quick, it's just moving from 27 spaces to 33 spaces. Simply by restriping and reconfiguring, which really reduced the cost of the project and made it affordable for all three entities, I believe.
Right.
I don't know if you want me to talk about the proposals that we've received
Please
so
do.
far.
I think that would be very appropriate.
So we went out to 4 different companies to get proposals to do this work. And we did receive a price from Straight Line Solutions for to do the entire project for $12,639. I got a second price from Teal Construction for $25,095. Jerry's Paving declined to bid it, as did Peninsula Paving. So just to give the committee some sense of it, this moved from a paving project with a lot of concrete work to rework the curbs and the dumpster island and everything to a much simpler just seal coating and striping project. So it fell out of the realm of what like a Teal or a Jerry's or a George and Lynch would want to do, and fell more into the lines of what Straight Line does all the time. So, the bank lease notwithstanding, I would make a recommendation that this committee recommend to City Council that we move forward with the Straight Line Solutions proposal for $12,639 to get this work done. It's a cost-effective way to increase the spaces, increase the city spaces, and all the positives associated with this new plan.
Thank you. I would also note that I did have a conversation with Jim O'Hare, who is the owner of Hotel Rodney, and he was most appreciative of the reconsideration of how this lot could be configured, and was very willing to participate. I think we shared that at the last meeting, but I have had conversation with him since, and he continues to support that. The M&T folks were going to also reach out to him in developing this lease and recognize his 4 spaces that we've allocated in this. Jim had indicated to me that he was fine with the 4 spaces. So I think this committee could make a recommendation to council, as Charlie has suggested, that we proceed with this. I would make one note that the estimate that Charlie is talking about, the $12,639, does not include the meter. And that's an additional $8,500. Is that right, Anne Marie, approximately?
That's correct. And then the other because of the massive shutdowns in California, we may struggle to get a meter by this coming parking season. So we may have to relocate one from somewhere else.
Okay,
I know we've had a really hard time with the customer service and supplies with the vendor because they're in California, and they've throughout the entire pandemic have had very high volume of coronavirus, and it's they've had more significant shutdowns than other places in the country.
well, that's worth investigating, but if we start now, I mean, if council were to approve this and we were to approve the funding for it, we could at least get it on order and have some semblance of idea of what the delivery date might be. Correct?
Oh, we potentially, but again, I mean, I think there's a lot of uncertainty.
Sure.
If manufacturing is entirely shut down, then
Got it.
but again, we could move from another location. We would just have to, I mean, it would be one of the beach parking lots, and
Reduce one of those by 1 meter.
right.
Yeah. Okay. So are there any questions or comments for Charlie about this proposed layout or moving ahead with this?
I just have one comment and then I guess a question.
Andrew, you're very grovelly. I don't know if you've got a bad connection.
Let me turn off my, can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Much better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my first comment was this, Charlie, if you could refresh our memory just mostly for the public's benefit, that the resurfacing and restriping was essentially in line with the age of the lot for M&T for the most part. I mean, they were due for sort of a resurfacing.
What, this parking lot?
Correct.
I mean, I think when we decided to do this project, we decided since we're going to be doing all the restriping to seal coat it. It's in good condition and it is seal coatable. You know, some asphalt, whether it's a parking lot or a road, it's beyond repair for seal coating, but this one definitely is. And since we're creating all new striping, it was always part of the project to seal coat it and put down the new striping on a fresh surface.
Okay. So my question off the back of that is, I know that we don't have the lease in front of us from M&T, but are they in agreement then to pick up costs for that portion?
Yes, they have always agreed to pay for the restriping and the seal coating of the lot.
Okay.
That's always been part of the agreement. Okay.
Mayor, I have a question about the signage. We talked at the last meeting about how important it was going to be to have really good signage there so people understand the rules during business hours and after hours and weekends and that sort of thing. Is the cost of new signage built into this project, or is it going to be an in-house thing that the city can do?
Actually, it's a very interesting question because M&T is very concerned about the signage as well, and they would like to work with the city and anticipate that they would do the signage. That was the last conversation I had with Patty, was that they would want to handle the signage, make sure that the lot was properly signed and properly logoed with the M&T logo, etc. So I think that there are details to be worked out there, but the indication was from Patty Dorr that their people would want to weigh in and perhaps manufacture the signage or work with a local vendor to have the signage manufactured.
Good.
Mayor, if M&T is doing the signage, especially I'm thinking of the very simple signs that indicate that it's parking, would they be consistent with the wayfinding signage? I don't know how we describe that project format.
Well, I think
I'm just worried about having, an entirely different type of sign saying parking that might be confusing to the public.
got it. Since council has not approved anything with the wayfinding signage yet, I think that's a detail that needs to be worked out. But you know, we would certainly work in conjunction with them to make sure that that you know, anything that was approved through the merge recommendations was incorporated into this. And I think that would be less individual space signing and more you know, directional signing, like this is the lot, rather than individual signage on spaces.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of just something that indicates that it's a,
Right.
that public parking is in that lot.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, other questions? Is there a motion to suggest for us to move this forward to City Council and recommend that we proceed with the lease, even though we'll bring it back at our next meeting so everybody can look it over, but just the concept of this, that the design concept, and that we would like to see the City Council act accordingly, with obviously these still details to be worked out.
I move that we put forward to City Council this lease, and with I have to say though, with the details to be confirmed, but that we as a committee feel that this would increase parking in the city of Lewis and are supporting it.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much, Father Ross. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we will carry this message forward to the City Council on Monday night. Obviously, we still need the lease. We still have a lot of details to work out, but I think conceptually we have a concurrence here. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
Mayor
Timeline?
A timeline, obviously we'd hope to get it in place. Anne Marie brings up an interesting point about the availability of a meter. I think we would hope to have it in place in time for the meter season, Betsy.
Hi, Bonnie. I'm in a Zoom meeting right now.
Out there with Charlie can sit out there with a bucket and a chair.
I think we'll even buy
Not
him.
sure we'll recover our costs with that one.
Maybe we'll even buy him an umbrella so he does get, or a bottle of suntan lotion. All right, so let's move on then to item C2, which is discussion recommendation, Mayor and City Council regarding the delineation of parking spaces on the streets adjacent to the business district. Here again, Charlie brought forth some very interesting information at our last meeting, showing us what could be done with spaces on Park Avenue and 3rd Street, West 3rd Street. And I think that was very interesting information and helpful. As we noted, these spaces are currently, or this area is currently not delineated. And so it leads to parking more randomly. And I would open it up. Charlie's got the diagram up. And are there comments or questions about this? I know there was one letter in the Cape Gazette expressing some concern about doing this, but other than that, I've had no negative comments about it. I don't know if anybody else has. I've had several positive comments about it.
So Mayor, I might want to say just a couple things to lead into the discussion is that when we talked about this last month, we had concerns about if we put parallel parking on both sides of either one of these streets, West 3rd Street or Park Avenue, that the travel way between wouldn't be wide enough for safe passage. And I agree with that.
Okay.
I've been out there several times over the last several months looking at what actually goes on. And people park on both sides of the street. Sometimes they're right across from one another. And if a car happens to be coming down, they'll safely negotiate through that roughly 14-foot travel space between the two parked cars. I think the problem would be if we delineate spaces all the way up and down either one of these streets and you have 14 feet for the entire length, that creates a problem. Whereas if you only have, the way it is now, intermittent times when people are parking directly across from one another, vehicles can negotiate that pretty safely. But if there's, 10 such cases on either one of those streets, it's probably going to be a problem, I think.
Okay,
So we had backed off on maybe just doing it on one side, which is what this concept is. Obviously, it reduces the number of demarcated spaces. There's a total of 54 for both of these streets. The
54,
total,
is that what you said, 5-4?
54, yes.
Okay. Thank you for investigating that, Charlie. That's helpful. But 54 delineated spaces is a significant increase in the number of spaces we have delineated currently. And I would open it up for discussion.
The only other thing I'd say before discussion, Mayor, is that I think, Anne Marie, this is something that the city crews would do.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's not something where we need to go out and get pricing or anything. We would just coordinate it with the city staff.
We do have a striping machine, and we did use that striping machine to create the spaces on Kings Highway by the chamber.
Yes, similar to that. Yep.
Right.
Would we need to put no parking signs on the other side, do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question, Andrew, because I think I think it would be a relatively minor problem, but it's still a little bit of an issue that, take West 3rd Street the way that we have it, the concept shown now. Somebody who lives on the canal side of that street might, they probably, or may, even their guests may have a tendency to park on that side of the street. So your question's a good one, do we want to eliminate that possibility?
Also, can you guys just remind me, did we discuss, and this is more for Charlie, is there enough space for angled parking? Sorry. Did we look at doing angled parking on that road?
No, we did not look at that.
I was just wondering if we're not doing it on both sides, is there enough space, or do we gain parking by doing angled spots and still have enough room for traffic?
I'd have to look at that. I wouldn't want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that street's wider. That's the only reason why I asked.
Yeah, it's 32 feet wide from the edge of the curb and gutter. The asphalt is 32 feet wide, which is where your angled parking would be. I think that angled parking, depending on which angle we go in, might come out so far that then you're down to, a travel way again that's might not be suitable for two-way.
Yeah, especially leaving the parking spot.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things is that if assuming you did the parking on the Ship Carpenter Square side on 3rd Street, it's counterintuitive to the traffic. Could people pulling in there. So.
Let me look at something real quick, if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
So while he's looking at this, Tim Ritzer did ask if in the chat if this would be free parking, and I responded yes, and Reverend Ross also responded yes.
We're not talking about any metered spaces in this area.
Where I am up on 3rd and Mulberry, it is parking on one side only. I guess I'd always just assumed that extended all the way down. So I'm not sure how many people park over on that side consistently.
I think when there are events at the Historic Society, people park on the other side. But generally speaking, I think once you get to Ship Carpenter Street or Park Avenue there, the street widens a bit compared to where you are, Father Ross.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd be down to something like 18 feet 17, 18 feet if you angled parking for your travelway, which is it's a little narrow for two-way traffic.
And the net gain's probably not that much either.
Probably not.
Okay. Thanks for looking at that, Charlie. That's helpful information.
Yeah.
Any other questions or discussion about this? Hearing none, is there a motion to make this a recommendation to council?
I'll make a motion to recommend to council.
Okay, with the understanding that it would be parking only on one side and it would be non-metered. Okay, and
I second.
okay, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It will carry that motion to council as well. Then moving on to item C3 is a discussion recommendation to mayor and council regarding the improvements of parking areas located at Sleigh, Otis Smith Park, Little League, and the Beebe Hospital Parking Lots. Charlie did a great presentation on the rotation of the Sleigh lot, so it would be reoriented so that entrance would be off of Franklin. Charlie, can we pull that up again?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this, it's not really an increase in spaces. It's still, I think it's actually the exact same amount as what's there now, 25 spaces. But it does address the sort of masking of the storage laydown areas that the board and city use for projects and other purposes towards the Washington Avenue end of this parcel. And it basically just, rotates the parking lot like we talked about, allows for a space for the bike parking for the bikes coming off the trail. It would require relocating the car charging station. We've shown that here. And, we talked about, because we're creating an ADA space and we're hoping that people will really utilize this as a downtown parking option, that we wanted to provide ADA access to the Franklin Avenue sidewalk system. We looked, at first glance, I really thought, well, let's just take it straight across here to this sidewalk. But when you get over here, there's a utility pole that sits right in line on the corner of where the ADA ramp would be. And it's not one that you want to even think about relocating, addressing. It's got some serious equipment on it. It's got some unique equipment on it, like for communication with the board's sewage pump stations. And then in addition, if you go out there, you'll see a relatively good size green underground box lid, which turns out to be fiber optic cable. I recall that that's fiber optic that gets from City Hall and the board's offices on Franklin Avenue down to the city and board's facilities on Schley Avenue. And it's not something that we want to get into, and it doesn't lend itself very well at all for an ADA ramp at that corner. So with all that in mind, we switched our focus and have taken it to where, the way that we have it conceptually shown here, going to the other side and then going up the canal side of Franklin Avenue. Now, Mayor, I think this project would be one that, we're not just saying we can do. First of all, I don't have pricing. Second of all, I think there's some design elements that need to be worked out in more detail before we, before we move forward with anything in the field doing this work. It might be something that the committee considers a recommendation to council to further the design development, but that's up to you guys.
Okay. Yes, there is cost associated here, just of course moving the charging station, and as you noted, creating the ADA ramp or the ADA crosswalks. So I think,
Yeah.
you know, taking this as a concept that we'd like further investigation of is a good recommendation, is a good suggestion. Thank you. Comments, questions? I think the one thing that Anne Marie and I have talked to the owners of the property, and I think earlier in an earlier meeting, we had neighboring properties expressing concern about the amount of disruption that goes on because under the present configuration, the parking lot, first of all, it's unattractive and was never really had any landscaping improvements. But the back part of it, as you near the trail, has been used for this heavy laydown, and because of some of the for the construction site, particularly relating to the bridge, there was a lot of disruption to people who live in the area, both day and night. So I think this puts all the heavy traffic on ingress and egress on Schley Avenue, which gets it away from disturbing the direct disturbance to the residential properties.
Well, and I think in addition, what it does is it gives us an opportunity to make it an attractive parking lot and not look like it's an industrial site, you know,
Right.
with landscaping and whatever else we need to do. Right now, it seems to become an extension of that laydown area as well. So not only is it adjacent to that, but it, you know, the construction equipment tends to spill over.
I saw Tim raised a question about is there a cost on estimate on the cost of relocating the charging stations, and the answer is we have not discussed that with BPW yet. As you can see from the present location to the suggested location, it's not a great distance, but obviously there would be that may be something that BPW could do on their own. I don't know as an in-house project.
Right. And I guess that's the other point, is that we need to work closely with BPW on this one.
Absolutely. Yep. So, so I think the opportunity here would be, as Charlie suggested, to make a recommendation to council that we continue to investigate and develop the costs associated with reorienting this parking lot. And improving the signage or improving the appearance of it to make it attractive for use. Any comments, questions?
What would the timeline on that one be?
Well, this would become a budget item, Bonnie, Betsy, and I would think we would put it in the budget that would begin April 1st. You know, so I don't think it would be it wouldn't have to be a real long timeline, depending upon getting costs and availability of a contractor to do the work. We're not talking about major resurfacing other than the crosswalks and things like that, and creating the access from the trail for bikes.
The reason I asked is because that would also impact the timing on the beautification of it. I'm thinking that maybe we could let Lewis and Bloom people know that, you know, this is a new initiative, and that maybe they could in their budget, you know, those pots that they've put around the commercial district and here in Swanndale Park are very attractive. And I think there's a lot of traffic on the bike trail there that you, if people could see that, you know, that there's plantings there and pots, that they know that it's a destination instead of just it's there.
Yep, good point.
That's a good point, Betsy, because Warren mentioned that they're looking for homes for those hollies. So that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
I also think in addition to that, and we briefly discussed this last month, was when we do move forward and it gets completed, marketing this lot is pretty important. And I think the driver for that should be that it's marketed towards the biking community because of its access and how easy it is, how centralized it is for bikers. And then I think that knowledge would, you know, help us spread the availability of the lot to other folks to use it in addition to, you know, people using the bike trail.
Okay, Good point. All right. So is there a motion to make this recommendation to council that we can continue to investigate and determine the exact costs associated with the reorientation of this lot, reorientation and beautification of this lot?
I so move.
Thank you, Father Ross. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Charlie, last
Sorry,
month.
Sorry I was a little late, but Reverend Ross had a great idea last time too, that was about renaming the lot as well. That we might just want to note that for discussion. Yeah.
Yep, good idea. Okay, Charlie, you provided several different scenarios as to how we might look at Otis Smith lot. Have you done any more in terms of the fire marshal and looking at that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We talked with the fire marshal. There really wasn't any record of the shopping center with the fire marshal in terms of what a fire lane that may have been required when it was built. They would require 24 feet probably around here.
Okay.
And it's not really an option to do it on the other end because it's at least partially the time gated off down at that end,
right,
between this and the steak restaurant. So, we went back. I'm pretty sure the committee would recall we looked at options to provide angle parking, and I'll show you those. One thing I want to say, even kind of related to the Schley Avenue lot, is that when we did Schley Avenue the first time 6-7 years ago, we used asphalt millings, which was a cost-effective way to build that parking lot in strength, with good structural integrity. And I guess I'm wondering what the committee's thinking about for this Smith Avenue, something like that. Is that what we're not talking about paving this with asphalt, are we?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. So we just, clean it up and do it right with some kind of asphalt millings, or recycled concrete is another cost-effective way to do it. Right. But I mean,
I would think we would want something that's permeable in terms of just all the water issues we have.
Yeah, that's that leaps into something that's going to be more costly when you talk about creating permeable paving of any sort.
Even like if it's crushed shell, crushed rock.
Crushed shell still has a, impervious element to it. Let's say once you get it down and it gets compacted.
What's down there now is largely crushed shell and crushed stone. And so I think we'd have a lot of, if we were trying to make this a permeable lot, I think we'd have a lot of removal to do to get below however much stone has already been put down there, stone or shell. So I think while it's a great idea to make it a permeable lot, I think trying to modify what's there might be a real challenge.
I mean, we can look at it, certainly if you go to like a large Walmart type parking lot, and some of those Walmarts have overflow parking, and they are the permeable block paver.
Like the geo block, right?
Yeah, like similar to that. But there's some costs associated with that as compared to just bringing in asphalt millings or something. But we can look at that. I can probably get pricing on that as we work our way through this.
I think it's worth at least getting pricing, because as the planning commission has been working really hard, and the mitigation planning team, and we've been really looking at, how we reduce flooding, minimize flooding. So to the degree we can not just put down something that's going to,
Yeah. I mean, just for the committee's knowledge, when you're talking about permeable paving, it's not only the surface that needs to allow the water to seep through.
Yeah.
It's also the underlying soil conditions. And, you know, that's why we're able to use it, the porous asphalt, say on Bay Avenue or Bayview Avenue or several of the streets on the Bay side, because it's so sandy underneath that once the rainwater goes through the surface at the top, it just continues to percolate through underneath. And I'd have to take a look at the soils here. My gut tells me that they're probably okay as you move towards Savannah Road, but as you move towards the back of this lot, it might get a little more clayey and wetlandy that wouldn't promote good, you know, infiltration. But we can look at that.
Yeah, if you're gonna do that, you also need to look at how deep is the current substrate that's down there. And is it 5 inches of stone? Is it, or a shell, or is it more? Because all of that, if you're gonna try and really make it permeable, you'd have to remove a lot of that.
Yeah, you'd have to excavate out probably 10 or 12 inches to get the right, you know, underlying condition there for permeability.
Right.
But it is a really, the more I think about it, it's a really good idea. And I think it's something that we can look at for sure.
Okay.
You know, along those lines, I guess, I was thinking that if you went with the asphalt millings, we'd probably just use these concepts and go get pricing from contractors. You know, similar to what we did for the M&T lot, similar to what we did for the Schley Avenue lot years ago. When we did that project. We didn't develop a full set of construction plans. We just put together the concepts and then worked closely with the contractors while they built it.
Getting those estimates would probably be helpful, but then providing a rough estimate in terms of what it would take to make it a more permeable area would be also helpful for city council's discussion, because obviously it'll be a different magnitude of impact on the budget.
Okay. So all that said, and we can look into all that, this is my preferred alignment, is to not conflict so much with the side of the shopping center to allow fire truck access. And interestingly enough, the hydrant is for this area is way back here. So I kind of like this arrangement because it does provide 20 spaces. It doesn't conflict with the fire lane, and it provides access to that hydrant without real difficulty.
Good.
You know, it's more of a straight in, head in parking, backing out, and coming back out the same way you came in. We talked about that the last time. There is a charging station there.
Right.
Two. Sherry and I, my designer that's helping me with this, we're hoping that we can set up these parking spaces to so that, you know, the charging station can provide that for 2 parking spaces the way it does now, and just have them all in line. We're hoping that we don't need to relocate. That is the bottom line on that.
Okay.
It's going to be a little strange because the car changing station will be in the middle of this line of parking, whereas most of the time you see them at the end. But I'm hoping that's something that we can live with.
Yeah, actually, if you didn't have to relocate it, that would be good. And there is good signage over there already marking or telling people that there's a charging station there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to refresh the committees, you know, we looked at, you know, 30-degree spacing. That only provided 15. I never really liked this concept as much as, you know, this one with 45-degree angled, where you get 21 spaces, but you're doing a lot. You have to do a lot to go in, get out, and go back around again. I think the cost would be higher, and then you're starting to get into that 24-foot fire lane issue.
Right.
of that building. With
Yeah, the fact that
no-
the hydrant's way back there in the back really underscores the importance of keeping that fire lane open.
Yeah, and I mean, for one space, I kind of like this because you're eliminating all those issues.
Exactly.
And it's a much smaller footprint too. It's going to be more cost effective.
Okay.
So I don't know what the committee's recommendation to council would be on this one, Mayor. Maybe you can formulate that, because I feel like there's still some work to do in terms of getting the pricing and everything.
All right. Well, we can hold off on making any kind of recommendation on that. It's just, and we can come, if you think you can get more information between now and the next time we meet, we can hold off on making any kind of recommendation there.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely try to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Unless anybody else would like to feel like we should go ahead and make some preliminary recommendation to council.
I guess I might appreciate some feedback just in terms of what folks' opinions are of the layouts that Charlie has put forward, which one seems the best use of the space, I guess.
I like the 15 space one, the one that's currently up there. I think that, when he talked about for the additional 6 spaces and the additional cost, and also the worrying about the truck traffic around there. I just don't think for the additional 6 spaces that it warrants the extra cost.
Actually, it's 20 spaces, Betsy.
Yeah, Betsy, this is actually, you're only losing 1 space from the maximum that I can get in.
Oh, I was looking at the minutes where you said the 15 spaces for the 30.
Yeah, there's another concept that I pushed up for a second.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood. So this is 21.
Yeah, no problem.
20 spaces.
That strengthens your argument, right, Betsy?
Yeah, right, exactly.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. The other one just seems like the traffic flow, to have to make that real hard hook turn in the back to get in, seems like it would maybe deter people. And this one just seems more natural to kind of fit in that space to me.
Right.
Yeah, I agree too. For just a 1 space difference, I think this is a better layout.
Yeah, I agree. I like this one too.
I do wonder, looking at the site plan that's up right now, it's easy for us, like from a bird's eye perspective, to look at the grayed out area and to go, okay, there it is. But when you're on the ground there, I'm trying to think of what to me, it's sort of going to look similar to what exists now. Like, I think we have to be a little bit creative with just sort of like the Sleigh lot, like, improve it so that it is physically appealing, even though it's not in a real residential area. We don't want to just sort of designate this area as this, for me, it all comes back to marketing, and how do we market it and make it look and feel, a little more welcoming, I guess, if you will, than kind of what's sitting there at the moment.
This might be another one that warrants like just a naming exercise.
Yeah.
Well, they've done a lot of improvement with the Rotary Pavilion and all that landscaping in front of there, and there's no reason why that can't be. And we also have a line of sycamore trees that separates this lot from the Beacon Motel. There's no reason why that whole area can't be, cleaned up and for relatively minor costs.
Hey, Charlie, I'm curious with the delineation on the certain like substrates or materials you're talking about, when you paint those lines, there's probably like a life to that, right? Like, it's not because of the surface that it is. There's probably going to be like some ongoing maintenance with painting the lines, I would think.
There's ongoing maintenance no matter where we paint lines. So that just needs to be added to the maintenance.
Yeah. I think this is.
I'm not even sure that we would paint lines on. If we went with asphalt millings, we'd probably just put these timber parking bumpers,
All right.
which suffice to delineate.
This is not unlike what is being done currently over at the Yacht Club, Matt. And they get about a season out of their painting or liming lines over there. And I think it's something you'd have to anticipate. You'd have to refresh every year.
Well, in Canal Front Park, we don't paint lines either.
Correct.
You have bumpers and you have
Yeah,
posts.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the posts were primarily because of the fees. So it's really the bumpers that delineate the spaces.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay.
And
Well, hold on. Go ahead.
And this would, I'm sorry, I just want to confirm this one would continue to be a free lot?
Yes. There's been no discussion about making any of these areas that we're talking about a charge at this point.
Right, I think part of the benefit of having delineated, clear, available, free parking kind of on the perimeter, it's that supply and demand, the economics of it will hopefully direct people there.
Right. Okay, so we'll hold on that until Charlie brings us some more information. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Moving on to the Little League, Andrew, you were in contact or were going to be in contact with.
Yeah, we might need to put that in the same bucket as this one. I think we still need to walk through with
Okay.
Rob.
Okay, all right. And then I have had a conversation with Rick Schaffner, the COO of the hospital, and they're very willing to allow us to direct people to use their parking lots during non-prime Monday through Friday business hours. I think there again, it's an issue of signage and education of directing people to those lots. Whether it's, and I think mostly they would be thinking that we would be using the lots down that abut George H.P. Smith Park, where the Bob is currently located. Although there is the gravel lot that goes up behind the Bethel Cemetery or alongside the Bethel Cemetery behind the Rite Aid, which also could be utilized. Again, these are satellite lots, no charge, that would be available during non-peak hours at the hospital. So this again points to the need for good signage. So I think we have, the hospital is very much wanting to work with us on that. So I think again, that leads us so there's really no action there other than to inform council that we have this understanding with the hospital. The discussion, the next item on the agenda is C4, the discussion recommendation regarding signage improvements proposed by Merje. And basically every topic we've talked about this morning talks about signage. Anne-Marie, have you had any information from Merje regarding what the signage portion of that proposal would be?
So no, I did get an email late Wednesday from John. So I need to respond to him and I'll see what he says.
Okay. Because I think that's critical to everything we're talking about is
right.
The success of any of these improvements is really contingent upon how we direct people to them. So, okay. All right. So we still need information there. Okay. Then moving on to item C5, this came up last month when we talked about adjusting the meter fees according to their proximity to the business district. And Derek is not here this morning, unfortunately, but I know she was, I think, one of the people who felt very strongly that we should consider a tiered structure for meters, that perhaps those on 2nd Street and maybe 1812 lot and the unit blocks of Market and Bank should have a different fee structure than the 3rd Street metered spaces or those at Canal Front Park or other places. Obviously, we have a tiered system now with the beach being at $1.50 and the downtown meters all being at $1. That's kind of a natural delineation. This discussion, however, would lead to the idea of changing the costs of metering in these locations. It does merit some discussion, I think, and consideration. As we know, Rehoboth does this with Rehoboth Avenue, Baltimore, and Wilmington Avenue. There's higher fees on those streets than there are in the adjacent areas. And so I'd open it up for discussion. What are your thoughts? Don't everybody?
Mayor, I know I'm not on the committee.
Please, but Charlie, weigh in. Go ahead.
My first thought is that you have, your $1 per hour downtown parking fee, and then your next option is free
Right.
parking at 3rd, Sleigh, wherever else that we've been talking about, Smith Avenue, if we do it. So I think the difference between $1 and free seems, if I'm driving around, I really know that there's free parking, close by it, and that means something to me. I might make that choice to go to the free parking areas rather than pay even $1. If you raise it to $1.50, that feeling might be stronger. True. So I'm just throwing that out there. Your differences now are $1 to free. So you've got some, incentive for people to do it even now.
Right. Carolyn, you're the consumer here. What is your feeling about this?
She
Well, I
already
kind of-
admitted she's a freebie. She likes
Yeah,
people.
right. That was a long time ago.
You remembered, huh?
But you also said you'd be willing to walk a little further too, so thank you.
Yeah, well, because I am a walker, so I would. But I kind of agree with what Charles just said. I mean, if we are going to have these free lots, I would think that people would, look further. And if you're going to raise in town to $1.50, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that bad an increase. Do we do off-season parking kind of thing, or it's pretty much?
Well, we don't now. That's the mayor and I have talked about that because we've had a real issue. Betsy's nodding her head with. As soon as the meters go off, people park wherever the heck they want for as long as they want and disregard the 3 hours. And, the police, we just don't have enough police officers to just have them patrol 3-hour parking. I think they do some, but right now we're down staff and we've had the COVID, we've been more down staff because of COVID. So it's been a real challenge. So if we want to start doing year-round enforcement, I think we need to consider it because enforcement is not free. So, we haven't really gone into that issue, but I think because of people's blatant disregard for the 3-hour parking, it may cause that discussion to come up because if we have to provide the enforcement, there's a cost to that.
Right.
There also is some support for the idea of leaving the meters up year round. Derica has mentioned that to me in a conversation, and I've had that conversation I've had remarks from others about that as well. That the parking is just such an issue and the abuse in the non-metered season is such that they would like to see it. Some of the shopkeepers would like to see it up year round.
I'd be interested in hearing Matt's thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would be too. Yeah.
So
And Father Ross.
Well, if we did that and left it at $1 an hour, would that be something that could be considered?
I think it's all open for recommendation. This is sort of an open discussion about how do we go forward.
I think it would be very, very upsetting for St. Peter's.
Okay, thank you. Matt,
I also think, there's positives and negatives to both sides for sure. I do think that, again, we need to consider the residential issue that we have downtown. And if the meters stay on during the off season, you're gonna, I think that that's gonna affect residents, because that's gonna push some of the people that are using the free parking downtown in the off season, they're gonna get pushed back out into the residential area. And to me, that problem that should be a priority of this committee, to how we're gonna help fix the residential parking problem in the downtown historic district.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, first of all, I think there's a factor that I don't have the data on, and this is just my impression. My impression is that we have more people coming year round now, or the season that they come has really been extended. And part of it is with COVID and people really realizing they can work from remote locations. So what used to be a big crush of people just during the summer months actually occurs much longer. And, I think we're really talking about three different levers we can, push to try to address the issues around parking. One is how much we charge. The other is how long we extend having those meters up. And the third is what hours we charge for. So I don't know if, in terms of St. Peter's, is the concern primarily on Sunday, or because of the degree to which the facilities are used by so many different groups, would it be a concern, even if the meters maybe weren't in effect on Sunday?
Yeah, we're not really just a building. We are, when we're open beyond COVID, we have something going full tilt just about every day of the week. We have more AA groups than any other place in Lewis. We have yoga groups and a lot of nonprofits use our space, the Coastal Camera Club, the Lewis Historical Society, the Lightship Overfalls. And what you're really talking about is not just, the impact on our worshipers, but really upon the volunteers of the city of Lewis. Many of the organizations that make Lewis what it is use our space. And if you make that space unpalatable, they may choose to meet someplace else, but they also, leave the use of the businesses on 2nd Street. Many of the folks who come will dine on 2nd Street, will go to the shops on 2nd Street. And so if they're not going to come down here for a meeting, they're not going to go and frequent our businesses. But further than that, speaking as just a resident, the parking that is available to us on Mulberry Street is still pretty heavily used when the parking meters are lifted. And if you are pushing the employees of the businesses on 2nd Street to then stay in those spots, you're going to really impact the residents in a very unfortunate way along Mulberry, along Market, along 3rd Street, and on the unmetered portion of 2nd Street. I just think this is a really bad idea.
All right.
Is there anything that can be done to encourage people? I mean, we're really talking about quite a bit of free parking that isn't being used. And I know the barrier is, as much as everyone seems to want to bicycle, they don't seem to want to walk 2 blocks.
Even if they bike in, they don't want to leave their bike at the bike corral and walk 2 blocks.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Well, I think, the whole issue of, how we would, if we were to adjust the fee, even if we adjusted it overall to $1.50 or something, is another recommendation that could be considered. And then there's another issue that Andrew mentioned, I think sent to everybody last week, and that was the article about sort of replicating what we did this past summer, where we had meterless Rehoboth's doing meterless Mondays, but we did meterless mornings. the impact on the budget was significant on that. Anne Marie, do you recall the number? I think
I don't
Ellen-
recall.
Ellen
Ellen
Lorraine's
Lorraine
on.
is on, so I don't know if she would have a number. I mean, it's hard to say whether the impact on a normal year would have been significant. The question is, if people aren't coming, you know, was it really revenue loss or was it a minor revenue loss? I don't know if Ellen Lorraine, I just unmuted you if you want to, if you've looked at the numbers at all. She may just have the meeting playing in the background, so she might have had to run off to deal with something else. So
Yeah, Anne Marie, I mean, we were all on 2nd Street every single day this summer, and it appeared to be, especially morning hours prior to, you know, noon or 1. I mean, it was 20 to 30% cars, which there's no way to look at a budget line and figure out the impact of what.
There really isn't, no.
Yeah.
I think
part of the budget impact is the fact that people just weren't here.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I had one other question, and I know this has been shared before, but I just can't remember the answer, and I haven't been down there recently enough to remember. What is being charged? What's the hourly rate for parking in Rehoboth?
$3 an hour.
Yes.
And that's on Rehoboth Avenue, and then it goes to 2 when you get off of the prime parking, right?
After you get off of Baltimore and Wilmington and Rehoboth, it goes to 2.
So we're actually very reasonably priced. I mean, I think it's very important to keep the free lots that we've been talking about free, because I think that's one of the main ways we can market them and get people to use them. But I mean, it sounds to me like there may be some leeway to increase this a bit.
It's been more than 7 years since we increased the cost of the meters.
What's happened to our labor rates during that time for the enforcement?
Oh, they've risen.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we've had increases with hourly rate increases for the meter patrol, and also so there is that cost as well. And also we've replaced the meters as we know.
And there's because we have the smarter meters and the smart enforcement technology, there's a fairly significant cost to that. The software, the handheld units that we use, you know, by going to the smarter system and not the written tickets anymore, there is definitely a cost to enforce the parking.
Right.
Maybe the logic could be that, well, obviously we already talked about the beach rate, but maybe you charge a premium where you have the individual meters a certain rate, and then charge a little less where you have to go feed a bigger box, and then charge, free where there's nothing, obviously.
Right.
Kind of think about it that way. Because $3 an hour at Rehoboth, to Nancy's point, is still, even at half of that, seems $1.50 seems very reasonable. And then it's kind of what Matt has been hitting on. Like, once we do that, people get upset that we're raising the fees, but if we remind them, and especially we name these lots and remind people that there's free park, you pay here, but there are free parking at X lot and Y lot.
Well, and what you're saying, Andrew, is correct, because we would then be able to say that, based upon the information Charlie's provided, there are 27 spaces at this location, or 20 spaces at that location that are free. So it makes some sense.
I mean, our overall net increase, now granted it was already there, but we're obviously, the work of this committee, we're looking to generate more free spots than we are pay spots. So as a town and as a committee, we're committed more to allow for free parking. But I think we need to direct people that by increasing where we do charge.
Okay.
That would be a really interesting, effective point, I think, to make, is that we've created more free parking spots than there are, I mean, that would be strong. And, I think that would hopefully psychologically open people up to exploring those options and finding out about where those spots are.
Right. Yeah. And that gets back to the issue of signage. And it all really hinges back to how are we going to educate people where those spaces are. That's a really important part of this. And we know that based upon the original whole merge proposal, that's not an insignificant number portion of the merge proposal, which I think John quoted us at about 300,000 for the entire re-signage program. But just to do the parking, we don't have yet a firm number on that or an estimate on that. But I think it's certainly something we should consider. Okay. It sounds like we need to consider this parking meter hours of operation and costs issue needs more discussion, more thought. And how would we go about doing it? And I think the idea of educating people about where 3 spots are is an excellent one.
So I think, and I mean, I think one of the things, and I don't know that we need to obviously do this now, but in terms of educating, I think as we get these improvements to the Franklin Avenue lot, to Otis Smith, and then delineating spaces elsewhere, I do think that we can, with Janelle's help, start to develop, I think, more informative maps.
And Betsy will do that too with the chamber maps.
Right, but I think specific parking related and different ways to get it out that way. Janelle can develop interactive maps that we can put on our website so people can zoom in and look. And so I think that there are opportunities through the chambers map, but also through us doing kind of more interactive mapping to, I think, have better, just more information out there.
Right. Okay. I see Derek has joined us.
Yeah.
Derek, we're talking about, I don't know how, at what point did you join this conversation?
I apologize. I logged in late today, just in the last 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
We've gotten most of the discussion about the hours of operation of meter and costs thereof. So would you like
one thing I did want to comment on, I think the map idea, Anne Marie, is a great one. What I think is an opportunity is it's one thing to create the materials, but if we aren't pushing them out and really marketing them on social media and have a plan for the push, we're still going to have the same problem where people don't know about it. Do you know what I mean? Like that should be part of the plan.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
that, so, and full disclosure, that is not my expertise.
No, yeah.
And it's not, honestly, that's not, we don't have a staff on hand with that expertise. So I think that's where kind of the partnership with, you business owners, you guys are pretty amazing in terms of how you get stuff out and your own marketing. So if we can, have kind of a collaborative approach on that.
Definitely. I think the work that we did, the chamber did with you in partnership, the city on Love Lewis and opening things up. I think we should come together with you there, Ted, whatever.
Right.
And do exactly what you said, come up with a plan on how we're going to make a big push.
Okay.
I'll just throw this out there for, I don't even know how far out in the future for the committee to begin thinking about it, but there is real movement across the country and the world for like real-time information through parking sensors that are either attached to some signage somewhere in the like downtown 2nd Street area or park mobile apps that will tell people, hey, there's 3 spots left, there's 2 spots left. If not, here's all your free spaces over, Schley, Smith, 3rd, wherever we're talking about. So, you know, I don't have any experience with that other than reading a few articles, but it is out there. There are parking sensors that are available to put in either the ground or overhead to sense whether a space is open or not, and then that information is automatically relayed to users.
Right. I've seen that in larger lots in metropolitan areas, airports.
Yeah, you see it in parking
Typically the
garages, yeah.
airport parking lots. Like if you
Yeah.
ever fly out of
Yeah.
BWI and you have to go to long-term lot A and long-term lot B, you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to Charlie's point, you can be driving to New York City and know that there's a garage on a certain avenue that has a certain number of spots available at that garage.
And
Right.
that may be, that's obviously, I think, a few years out, but it's certainly something to look into if we want to make our parking system more interactive. It's certainly there.
Yeah.
Charlie on a bucket.
As long as Matt brings me plenty of food, I'll be good.
That's a done deal, and I've got plenty of umbrellas that we can. You'll be fully covered.
And he'll have to bring something to hydrate you as well.
Yeah.
That's right. We'll tag team, Charlie. I'll supply and help you as well.
Okay.
I think you might even get a lot of volunteers to help monitor that program.
I'll lose my job.
Okay. Well, I think this is a topic we need to come back to, but I do think we need to get some serious thought about a recommendation of how do we handle hours of operation? How do we handle the fee that we're charging? And you know, what other things would we like to see council consider? In the meantime, maybe we need to learn a little bit more about our new metering system and how much can we generate from it, Anne Marie, in terms of information that we could possibly make more readily available.
Yeah, and honestly, there's a ton of different reports that we can run. Well, we meaning Dennis. I think Ellen Lorraine can run some, but I it's not in my wheelhouse. But we collectively can run a lot of reports. So I'm sure, you know, if we want to start presenting different types of data, we can start to do that. Now, Dennis is off this season. So we, you know, at this point, he's not technically on until April, unless we could get him to come back sooner.
Okay. Good.
Emery, some town, like for example, maybe they're done through news outlets, but Rehoboth has like a camera on their boardwalk, and so I've seen this in other towns. Is that something that we've ever thought about as a town? Is just putting a camera down Second Street or around so people can see what kind of activity is going on down there, or what the weather looks like on the beach, kind of thing?
The Rehoboth camera is it is a news camera, so I think it's WBOC that has the camera, and they work with the business. I guess it's the Boardwalk Plaza Hotel. Is that where it is?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And there's a sponsorship, you know, because the hotel gets some
free coverage or free advertising. Yeah.
So they pay for that. So I know that WRDE, before they were bought by Draper Holding, had asked BPW about putting a camera on the water tower. Right. But they didn't want to pay. They want it because, again, typically it's a business and the business pays. And obviously the board wasn't going to pay to put a camera on their water tower. So it never really went anywhere. So there are opportunities out there, but they're typically not that the municipal government would be part of it. I don't know if Betsy, have you been in touch with any of them? Do they ever contact you?
No, no. But I know that that's what the relationship is with all of those cameras. They're all sponsored by businesses.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and they do a good job of recognizing whoever the sponsor is as well. So, and the question is, you know, in our situation, it'd be great to show our beaches But in downtown, you would only be able to show Second Street really. And that's only, compared to what we're talking about here in overall parking areas, our parking is going to be very fractured. So you're going to need to know where these places are. So, okay. Well, any other conversation or thoughts about the whole metering concept before we consider another date to meet? We would like to get this report pretty much finalized. It's due on the 31st of January. I'm going to carry some of these things forward to during the meeting on Monday evening. But in terms of submitting an overall report, if we're looking to do that and in a timely way, I think we need to look at having another meeting in order to pull together our final comments. And so looking at the week of the 25th, right now, it looks like we could meet on Monday, the 25th. Anne Marie, does that work for you or for the city calendar? If we did something at 8:30 on the morning of the 25th?
So I'm looking at the calendar for that week and I don't see any conflicts. Does the chamber meet on the 28th?
No, we haven't been having
Okay.
in-person meetings with COVID.
Okay. So
yeah,
it looks like any meeting that week would work, or any morning that week would work.
Well, I have a conflict on Tuesday morning, and we have something scheduled on Wednesday morning at 10. And so I would prefer that we did it either on Monday or Thursday. Does one of those days work better for this group?
Monday works better for me.
Monday's fine for me.
Okay. That work?
Yeah, Monday works.
Okay, Monday at 8:30, the 25th.
Okay.
That
So
work for you, Betsy?
I have a conflict right now, but I will make myself available.
Okay, great. Thank you. Charlie, you think you can get some additional thoughts on the Otis Smith lot in the ensuing period? Between now
I'll
and
do
then?
my best, Mayor. I'll do my best.
I know you will. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I can definitely get an estimate on the permeable pavers option,
Okay,
but I might have a hard time getting pricing from contractors. If not, I'll just estimate it for the like the asphalt millings approach.
that would be good. That would be most helpful.
Mayor, are you going to present all recommendations to council at the same time, or are we going to still present what the motions that were passed on Monday evening?
I think we're just going to present the motions that are, and we'll talk about the fact there are other things still pending
Okay.
that were part of the
Okay.
final report. I'm not going to get into I don't want to create a whole discussion about things that we're still talking about.
Okay, no, that's fine. I didn't know if you were going to hold off on the motions that were passed or go ahead and move them forward. I think that there's some time sensitivity to them, so that.
Exactly. That's why we tried to talk about them today, is make sure that you could incorporate them in your draft budget, which you have to get to us.
Oh yeah, that. I was thinking about, I'm still on Monday's packet, so.
The clock is ticking. This calendar, these pages are flying by on the days of the calendar.
Oh my gosh, right?
Yeah. So anyway. All right. Anything else that anyone would like to bring forward? Hearing none. Thank you all for attending this morning. We'll see you on the 25th. I'm sure I'll see most of you before then. But thank you again. The input's really good. I think we've made some accomplishments here, and we have some good recommendations to make to council. There's more to come, but thank you for all your work on this. And motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.